Today, on the Trade Talk podcast, hosted by Glass Guys, Jay and I, we have special guest and local entrepreneur, Gentry Thomas. We're going to talk about his transition from terrestrial radio through online to his current partnership with Shaquille O'Neal. We hope you enjoy.
You know what the amount of time is that you have to get someone's attention to make a first impression? It's roughly, I think it's 3 to 7 seconds. That you got it. Like, and I would say if I was teaching a sales course, one day maybe I will be, I will use that as an example because it is perfect. Your ego was out of the way. It was 100% on him. And it wasn't the typical baseline comment that everybody said, you know, what about the Tiger comment at the Augusta? It was about your vodka. And boom, he, like, you could just see he lit up. And you captured that attention right away. And you're also talking about being a producer. I watched a special on Jimmy Iovine and Rick, is it Rick Rubin?
Rick Rubin, yeah.
Both of them. And the one thing that I noticed between both of them and you is brilliant people, but yet there's nothing out there that's really actually about them. It's always about how this guy's helped someone else or done this for other people. So like their stardom is not actually about them. It's about what they did for other people. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like
I'd almost
helping
put
other
you
people.
Yeah, you can tell. Because the way you carry yourself isn't a me type of mentality. It's about propping them up. And I think there should be, it's almost like the Gary Vee approach. Like, we need more of that, the empathy driven.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I guess maybe it does come from my dad. I talk about him being in this business, but one thing I notice is that, and even with Shaq, who's my business partner, and he has the reason to have the biggest ego in the world. But when I'm traveling with him, he almost makes it a point to talk to the driver or to talk to the waitress or to talk to the security guard and treat with them with the same respect as the promoter who's stroking the check. Because at the end of the day, everyone, has feelings. Everybody, to me, is equal. I don't look at myself that I'm better than anyone. I definitely don't think I'm better than anyone myself. I'm very humble because I feel like you can quickly be thrown right back into the dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have been. And I think that ego sometimes will get you thrown back there if you use it too much and be too disrespectful. So I also don't like burning bridges either. There's been people that have pissed me off where I've wanted to torch that bridge. But I always say to myself, maybe they have a reason for doing what they're doing, and maybe they don't see it now, but I'm going to take the high road. And 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years ago, from now, they're going to say to themselves, I probably should have, treated him better, or, he took that very well, because you never know when that is going to come full circle.
Never know.
We see that a lot in our business with certain contractors that we may have worked with in the past, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they stopped using us. And rather than have a shitty attitude about it, we've let it go, and they're back.
Jay's coached me into being better than that. I would be the one that said, you want to pull a shot on us, we're going to fucking... I would go out of my way, actually, to make sure the deal didn't happen for anybody, which is exact opposite, going back to the Fuzzy's other thing, taking yourself out of it and making it about them. Maybe they're struggling at home. Maybe they're going through divorce. But they'll eventually, see the right way, and they'll remember you for treating them that way. So I think in the long tail, your approach is way better. I have slowly, thanks to Jay and some other professionals in the industry, have kind of corrected me on that. So I'm starting to see the light with that. But
it's also a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. There's no benefit.
Yeah, you're using all your energy to try to seek and destroy someone else when you could be taking that energy to help elevate yourself.
All right, so talk about the Shaq thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big flex, actually.
Speaking of elevating yourself, how did we get there?
Yeah, so back to the Cadillac Jacks thing. I was doing the Friday Night Live with Muddy Country Radio, and we were...
That's the name of your radio station, by the way.
Yeah, Muddy Country. That was the first station that we started. I was in country radio at that time, and so that's when we said, let's just start our own little internet radio station, have some fun. And it started to get more popular, and we started doing this live Friday night. The things that I was playing in the club would be played over the app. So you could listen to it in Des Moines, Iowa. You could listen to it in New York City. You could be listening in Germany. And we would only have maybe 100 people tuning into the broadcast, on any given Friday night. But it was the energy, like I said, that it brought to the club. We're live on the radio, and it kept growing, and it kept growing. And we would do things where we would get concert tickets, and if you wanted to win the concert tickets, you had to show us that you had the app on your phone. So every week we were getting hundreds and hundreds of people putting the app on their phone. Well, one night there was this girl who came into the club. A promoter brought her in, beautiful girl, Hoops from Flavor of Love. And
we're going to unpack that too.
I didn't really know who she was. This promoter I know locally brought her in, and he was like, meet Hoops from Flavor of Love. I was like, oh, she's hot. Nice meeting you. And next thing you know, I started drinking with her and dancing with her and having a great time with her, and I told her about the radio station, and we just had a good time. I got her number, and I didn't really know who she was. Then the next day we're texting, and I decide to look her up. I'm thinking she's in some R&B group or something. Hoops from Flavor. What is Flavor of Love?
Flavor Flav?
Well, Flavor Love is that Flavor Flav reality show, and she won the first season of Flavor Flav's Love or whatever the hell it was called. And so I started doing a little more research on her, and she was engaged to Shaquille O'Neal. I was like, oh, wow. That's going to be some big pants to fill there. And so I never mentioned any of that stuff to her. I just kept that relationship of me meeting this girl. I don't know anything about her background. I only found that out by the internet. I thought that's kind of creepy if I'm like, oh, so you were engaged to Shaq at one point. So I get to know her a little better, and she's constantly screenshotting the app and telling me I like this song, and we just had like this friendly relationship.
Yeah.
And I always had this vision of a celebrity having their own station, because now I've got this technology down. I got the app code, my own intellectual property where we built our own app. I got my own automation software that we built to play the music. And so I've kind of done the grunt work to build a station, and I've got my own brand on it, Muddy Country. But wow, what if we had Shaq's name on it? That would really elevate it. So it just so happened that I got invited to an event that Shaq was at here locally for the Boys and Girls Club through my ESPN radio ties, where it had nothing to do with her. It was a coincidence. I'm getting invited to an event with Shaq. So now I'm saying this is where the fate hits the road, or whatever the old saying is. So I decide to bring it up to her. I'm like, I don't know if you still talk to Shaq or not, but I'm about to meet him in a couple of days, and I have this idea. She's like, what is it? Yeah, I talk to him all the time. I said, well, you know how you love Muddy Country? I'm like, what if it wasn't Muddy Country? It was like Shaq Radio. She was like, oh, I think he would think that that's pretty cool. Let me mention it to him. And so she mentions it to him, and she tells me he definitely wants to talk to you. So make sure you go talk to him at this Boys and Girls Club event. Well, I got there, and it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I didn't have the access to him that I thought I was going to have, and it was the event, truth be told, was kind of boring, and it was taking forever, and I brought this date with me, and we were hungry, and I was like, you know what? He's not going to want to talk to me. This is taking too long. Let's just leave. So we left. The next morning I get up, I get a call from her, and she's like, where were you? I can't believe it. He was waiting for you, and you never talked to him. Then that made me say, he must really want to talk to me. So she gave me his number. We communicated on the phone. He said, tell me a little bit more about it. I gave him like the quick elevator pitch on the phone. And then he was like, well, let's meet. Come to my house in Orlando and let's talk about it. So I went. I was like, wow, we got it. And so I went to Orlando all prepared. I wore a suit and tie to his house. And I'll never forget, one of the first things he said to me was, don't ever wear a suit and tie to my house. He's like, you don't need to dress up like that. I was like, hey, man, I'm here to impress you. Because I read his book, again, Preparation. Before I met him, I knew everything about the guy. I read his book. I read every article I could find about him, both on the court and off the court. And what I read was his father was a military man, and whenever he would go out as a kid, his dad would tell him, make sure your shoes look nice, make sure you're looking good, especially when you're going to go to a business meeting. So I kind of told him that. I was like, I showed up to impress. I'm here with a suit and tie on because I'm ready to do business. I'm not here to play games. And I think he respected that. Even though he told me, he's like, you were in Florida, cuz. Take that damn jacket off. What the hell you wearing a jacket at my house? He's in his like flip-flops and shorts and stuff because he's hanging out at his house. But I had put together a really slick audio demo for him, like a 4-minute, again, being in the production room and knowing how to produce. So I produced this killer demo. and it blew him away. And
what was the when you say demo? Because you're demoing something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I created like a 5-minute audio clip of like what Shaq Fu Radio would sound like.
So that's the name of it.
Yeah,
and this is active.
Yeah, it's active. We launched
Spell
the station Shaq SHAQ, Fu like Kung Fu, and then radio. Shaq Fu Radio, and that was his idea to call it Shaq Fu Radio. That's like his alter ego. He had a video game called Shaq Fu.
Yeah, from the Fu Schnickens
and the Fu
days.
Schnickens, yeah. He did the What's Up Doc, Can We Rock record, and it was like Chip Fu, Pac Fu, and Shaq Fu, and they did that record, and so that's like kind of his alter ego is Shaq Fu. And so there was a lot, like I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version of the story because there was a lot of struggles along the way. One quick note is I thought for sure he would want to fund this. So when I met him, he's like, let's do it. It's on. Okay, great. So then I tell him, we're going to need about $200,000 to $250,000 to pull this off. And in my mind, I'm like super naive at this point. Like, he's worth.
It's not a big deal.
He's worth $400 million. He could stroke a check for $500,000 like it ain't no thing. This is going to be easy. Well, then I get back home and I'm all excited, and then I tell him, all right, I'm gonna need $250,000, to pull this off, and he didn't respond to me, and so I'm like, oh, wonder what's going on. So then the next day I hit him up again, and I'll never forget. He texts me back, PROLLY, probably gonna pass. That's what he said, and I was like, oh no, I'm like, the guy's not going to give me the money. This is insane. Why would he not want to give me this money? I showed him how we're going to make so much money. It's going to be so fantastic. And this is just not very much money to launch this business. And he told me no. And so luckily I had Hoops as my earpiece because I called her all disappointed. And I was like, he will not give me this money. I don't understand. Why wouldn't he? He said he wanted to do it. Now he doesn't. She was like, you have to realize his skin in the game is worth $10 million. You need to go raise the money. You need to go find somebody that wants to be your partner that's going to give you $250,000 that wants to have some shares in this company. And I found the money within 48 hours. So I was able to raise. I didn't raise that much. I only raised $100,000. But when you start setting up your cash flow and you start seeing how much money you're really going to need, my business partner who gave us the money to start the business, he ended up teaching me a lot about cash flow statements and how you only need, if you look at your plan, Gentry, you only need $75,000 to get it on the air, which is going to take you 90 days. And then in another 90 days, you're going to need another 50 to meet payroll and to pay some expenses. And then in another 90 days, you're going to need another 50. So you really don't need 250 now. You just need 75. So I was like, okay, 75 is better than nothing. So I took the 75, and that got us to this point. And then he fed us another 25, and that got us to the next point. And then before you know it, you have revenue coming in, and you don't need his money.
Well, hold on. Where did you go from raising the money to now going back and telling Shaq that you found where did that meet back up?
Well, he pretty much just said that if I found the money and I wanted it, he would do it, but he ain't giving me no money. So
and you didn't quit on that. You said his name does mean a lot to me.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a done deal. When he first told me he's going to pass, I was like, it's over. My dreams just got shattered.
I was going to say, you crushed?
I was crushed for a night. But then, you wake up and you say to yourself, I got to figure this out. And then that's when I called Hoops. That's when she gave me you got this. Just go out and find the money. Well, then back to the radio business. On Wink News Radio on Saturday mornings, I used to do this investment show with the boys at Private Asset Management Group. My friends John and Carl Nicolosi. They're the ones that helped me raise the money. But the way I met them was similar to what we're doing right now. I was the host of this investment show where it was like, welcome back to the Private Asset Management Club group show here. I'm here with John and Carl. Tell us about annuities, John. And then John would go on about his investments and talk about annuities. And so I knew these guys knew investments. They handled people's portfolio who had a lot of money. So I reached out to them and explained to them, I have an opportunity for one of your clients to be in business with Shaquille O'Neal. I have a business plan that's buttoned up, and I need money. And so within 2 days, I was at breakfast with a guy named Kelvin Thomas, who owns a soccer club over in the UK called the Northampton Cobblers. He's a local guy here in Naples. but also travels to the UK, pretty fluent businessman, and he gave me the money. So he has now 21% share of our business. But without him, I wouldn't have had the funding. And he also taught me a lot of things that I didn't know about business, which was accounting side of business, the like cash flow statements. Like I said, I mean, that cash flow statement is the Bible for my business. To where back in the day in my DJ business, it was just, hey, I all I have is what I have, and hopefully I make it. But now it's like you're flying blind if you don't have one of those. You don't know how much money you have, and you don't know how much money is coming in. So I learned a lot from my business partner, and thank God for him, or else, who knows where I would be now.
So right now people can listen to Shaq Fu Radio via the app.
Yep, there's a free app and there's a website, ShaqFuRadio.com. We're also on the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app.
And so how big has this grown to? Now, so how long, what year did it start?
2015, the summer of 2015.
So that's when all this finally came to a fruition.
Yeah, and we
so
didn't.
You're going
we
on
didn't
8 years.
We didn't make money with that business either until 2018. We started to turn a little bit of profit in 2018, and then in 2020 it went to the stratosphere
because of the COVID.
Yeah, well, yeah, because of the advertisers. Really, like we had the audience that was there, but
how big?
Now we get about 25 million impressions a month on the platform
shit.
Between the website and between the app. But we have the backing of Shaquille O'Neal, and we spend a lot of money. We're spending about $50,000 a month on marketing that product to get that many listeners. So we're also in the business of spending money to make money.
Yeah.
You're trying to get that person to click on your platform, because as soon as they click on the link to come in, we make money. And then if they listen to the stream, we immediately make money. And if they listen for a long period of time, we make more money. So, and people love being in business with Shaq, so it's been really easy to get advertisers on.
I see that he's doing a bunch of DJing like himself too, like at clubs. And didn't you have?
Yep.
Do you have anything to do with that?
DJ Diesel. Yep, we were in his house, and I was having him DJ on the radio station. So he would make mixes at his house. We would go live at his house, and he got all the DJ gear at his place, and I was giving him records to play. And then eventually we started getting gigs, like NBA All-Star was one of our first gigs in Toronto, and we did a DJ gig. Snoop Dogg was there. It was incredible, and he did really well. And so then next thing you know, we're getting booked for like corporate events in the Bahamas where we're playing for Amazon and their employees. And so we start doing corporate gigs. Then he goes to a festival. We went to Tomorrow World in Tampa, not on Tampa, in Atlanta. And this is one of these big festivals where there's like 50,000 people. And he ended up DJing there. And after the show, he said, "This gives me that Game 7 energy."
Oh.
He was like, I need this. And there's a lot of money in DJing these festivals. I mean, some of these DJs are making $15, $20 million a year. It's amazing. And I don't want to knock them, but ultimately they're really standing up there with DJ controllers, hitting buttons and jumping up and down and getting paid $150,000 for 1 hour of work.
That stuff's already pre-done most of the time, right? I mean,
it depends. The big festivals where they have the big stage presence and the lights and the pyro, a lot of times you will give them your mix ahead of time because they're coordinating the lights and coordinating the sound with your mix. So DJs will give them a pre-recorded mixes at those big festivals, but a lot of times Shaq is DJing live. I think I don't want to offend anybody, but at a party he did at Lost Lands just a month ago, he messed up and hit stop on the wrong player, and then he hit the next one, and in quick wit fashion, Shaq was like, "Sorry, my dick got in the way," and hit the mixer, and everybody started laughing, and they just thought it was funny. But he came up with that line to loosen it up where he just screwed up.
It's perfect. Context is everything.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those mixes, not Deep House, but Two Brothers. And in between some of the songs, today's a good day to die, motherfucker. They add those in there.
Oh, yeah, those little drops that gets the kids hype. Yeah, these festivals are nuts. 50,000, 75,000 people showing up to rage out. And that's what the kids love doing. And there's so much money in it. The sponsors, the ticket prices, they camp out. It's 3-day festivals. It's like Woodstock. Now, the modern day Woodstock are these music festivals with DJs making, I mean, minimum Shaq's getting $50K to come out and DJ for an hour. He says that he doesn't really do it for the money, which I know the money he spends. He flies private and he has all these people on staff that he pays security, and he pays and he puts them up in 5-star hotels. So he probably doesn't profit a lot off the DJing, but I think what it's done, and we talk about this, is it's good for his brand. How has Shaq stayed relevant? Because he's everywhere. How is he building a new audience? He's 52 years old now. How is he going to get to the kids so that they know who Shaq is? They never saw him play for the Lakers and the Magic, but now they can watch the highlights on YouTube and they can see him DJing, and he relates to them because he's playing the music that they're into. So it's really brilliant on Shaq's behalf. Even though he doesn't really profit a lot off the DJing, he enjoys it. He's having fun, number one. And number two, it's great for his brand. And he meets a lot of people when we're out traveling and DJing. You meet new people, you meet business owners, and opens more doors.
Did he have that bug before you came on board, or was that something he always wanted to do?
Well, he DJ'd back in his LSU days. He'll say that that's how he paid some of his bills in college. He would DJ. I didn't know him back then, but he does tell stories about DJing college parties. And there is an old photo of him where you see him on the turntables back in the day, in the early 90s and late 80s. And he loves music. That's one thing. He also loves writing like freestyle. I guess they wouldn't be freestyles because he's writing them out, but he loves rapping. He had a platinum rap album in 1992, the Shaq Diesel album that went platinum. He's still the only professional athlete to go platinum. And he still holds.
I did not know that. Say that again. To this day,
he's the only professional athlete to cross over to music and go platinum. There's been people try doing it. Allen Iverson had an album. Kobe Bryant even came out with some songs. I think the guy who has the best chance right now is Dame Lillard. I don't know if you've heard him, but he can rap actually, and he's pretty good. But nobody in professional sports. Shaq always says rappers always want to be athletes. Athletes always want to be rappers. I've had the pleasure of doing both.
That's unbelievable. We talk about dual, Deion Sanders is in the media, Bo Jackson was doing both. But Shaq, you could actually put into that convo because the only one, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The only one ever to do that. That's awesome. How often do you travel with him to do those type of gigs? Do you go with
I
him?
don't do it as much anymore. I used to travel. We went to China. We went to Toronto.
No way.
Las Vegas, yeah.
When you go to China, are you part of his entourage wherever he's going?
Yeah, when we went to China, there was just three of us. It was me, Shaquille, and his best friend Alex. And first we flew into Beijing, and we did a show in Beijing one night. We got to stay at the Ritz-Carlton and the presidential suite at the top floor in Beijing. That was amazing. You get room service 24/7. And stay at only the finest hotels and travel in Escalades with drivers. And so I don't know if I would want to go to China like on my own, but when you go with Shaq, he's a big star over there as well. And I've noticed over there, they know him they call him O'Near. It's like O'Near. Because
Shakir O'Neal,
because his last name is on the back of his jersey, O'Neal. So that's how they know him. So everywhere we went, it was like O'Near.
That's
O'Near.
Hilarious.
And people definitely know him. As soon as we got off the plane, there was people waiting for us when we got off. It's like I describe it as what it was like probably for people that traveled with the Beatles back in the late 60s when they were on top of the world. And even bigger to me because Shaq, even if he wears a hoodie and a hat and sunglasses, you still see a 7'2" giant out of your peripheral, and you look over and you're like, who is that? And then it's Shaq. So there's really no hiding him. People recognize him everywhere you go. He's always really gracious with his time, signs autographs, takes pictures. I've never really seen him be a jerk to anyone, and he's pretty nice to everybody. So I think that's one of the other reasons why he's so successful. He's like I describe him too as a chameleon. We can be in the most hood spot, and Shaq is down with the hood. We can be at a country club with old people that are in their 80s, and he is yes ma'am, yes sir, and he's talking the talk. We can be in a business meeting with billionaires, and he's talking the talk there. It doesn't matter where you put Shaq, around a bunch of country folks, rednecks, spitting Big Chew or whatever. He's right there with him. I'll throw a cowboy hat on, and I'm
a cop.
Yeah, police officer. Yeah, he's went into police training in both Miami and Los Angeles. I guess he's gone. I never went with him, but he's told me stories about going on, drug busts and helping kick doors down. And I'm thinking that'd be the last thing you want. You just sit in your house, all of a sudden, some big 7'2" guy walks in.
This is the end of the world.
Yeah. Shaq's here to arrest me. But yeah, he has passionate for law enforcement, and with what we've seen in the last couple of years with people disrespecting law enforcement, 100%. Especially in the black community.
Yeah.
He, which some of it is warranted, truth be told. Some cops are not good. But I think Shaq has been a great conduit to let that community know that not all cops are bad.
It's like an ambassador.
Yeah.
I love Shaq. I respect every single thing he does. That's unbelievable. Jay, what were you going to say?
Well, you were mentioning how Shaq is really gracious with his time. You also see a lot of stories in the media about him being very gracious with his money as well. He's always willing to help people. Like, you see him out at stores, and he just, some little kid wants a pair of shoes, and he buys shoes for the kid and all his friends. Yeah. Well, have you been around him when he's done things like that?
I took a video that went viral maybe about a year ago, where we were in Atlanta, and he went to go buy some gym equipment, and then he wanted to go get some hoop earrings. He's like, I'm bringing the hoop earring back, cuz. He's like, let's go to Zales, because, Zales is one of his sponsors. And so we walk into Zales, and there's this young country boy-looking kid who is putting his engagement ring on, like, layaway, where he's making payments. And Shaq overhears that. And so he tells the young guy, he's like, hey, man, I got this. I'm going to just go ahead and pay the rest of it. I think it was like $2,500 that he owed on that ring. And at first, the young guy was like, no, I don't want you doing that. He was like, no, I want to do it for you. He's like, just let me do it. And so he pulled out his card and paid for it. And Shaq didn't know I was filming. He didn't care. He doesn't like want that kind of attention. He's not like, hey, Gentry, I'm about to do this. Film this. I did it because I saw the moment. I was like, Shaq's about ready to pay for this guy's freaking wedding ring. And so I pulled my phone out. And I filmed Shaq paying for it and shaking the guy's hand. And then I was like, let me get your guys' picture. I took their picture. Next thing you know, the next day it was on Inside Edition. It was on the nightly news. And that video has gone viral and that moment. But not because Shaq wanted me to film it. It was more because I was impressed in the moment. I filmed it. And so that's another thing I respect about him is he takes care of people. And he does it not wanting everyone to see it. But the camera is often rolling around Shaquille, so that's why you often see it. But there's so many times where he hooks people up and you don't see it. He gave my son $1,000 for every 3 he hit in his junior year of high school. So, I like offered it up to him his junior year.
Did your son turn into Larry Bird? I mean, was he making buckets or what?
I wish he would have made more. But that was pretty cool. He's like that, though. He likes taking care of people.
People's intuition is way more powerful than most of us give it credit for. And it shows Shaquille's demeanor, like you said, is very obvious to anybody that watches. He's not a Grant Cardone. He's not a snake oil salesman. He is an honest, humble individual. And anybody that's watched anything Shaq's done can tell that. It's obvious.
He's genuine.
And he's got a pattern of it. I mean, he's been like that his whole career. I would say almost sometimes to a fault. You saw in the earliest career, he'd be taking fouls that if most people were getting hit like he would, that could turn people angry. I think one time you saw him kind of get triggered where he kind of like was going to look like drop a sledgehammer on somebody.
Oh, yeah, Brad Miller. He took a swing at Brad Miller once. He's definitely not a guy you want to make angry.
No.
I've seen him angry. He does get angry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he'll tell a story about how when Kobe won the championship without him, it was really pissed off about that because they had a really heated rivalry, him and Kobe, to where they hated each other. And I think Shaq had a good reason. I'm a little biased. But if you know the story, Kobe had those rape allegations in Denver. And when he was being what do they call that when you're having to give a statement to the police?
Deposed.
He was being deposed. He was being deposed, and it was all documented. And he was like, maybe I should just, Kobe said this, maybe I should just do like Shaq and pay all the women off. And that really obviously pissed Shaq off.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, the two of them hated each other. Then when Shaq got traded and he went to the Miami Heat, if you remember, Kobe won his next ring without Shaq, with Lamar Odom and Pau Gasol. And Shaq said he took his house and ripped it apart that night, that he was so angry that Kobe won one before he did. So he is a big teddy bear, but make him mad and he will he can make some he can do some damage.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Speaking of brands, we talk about the social media because our company here, My Architectural Glass, is solely built on social media. It's the oxygen behind our business. And I remember about 2 years ago, there was an Ocean Spray commercial. It was a guy on a skateboard. I think he was an Indian guy, shaved head, had a tattoo of a feather. Do you remember this? He was on a skateboard and he drank.
And he drank the cranberry juice while listening to Fleetwood Mac's Dreams.
Yeah, and he was kind of lip syncing it. Well, they were able to quantify, because of all the data they had in the past and over the subsequent month, that one video had basically cleaned the shelves off of every bottle of Ocean Spray in the next 2 weeks. And so you said you had a video go viral with Shaquille O'Neal. How much are you using social media to grow the brand, Shaq Fu and the radio station, whatever other brands that you have tied to that?
Yeah, I mean, every day we use it, all of them too. You have to be on TikTok. You got to be on Twitter or X, whatever they're calling it today, Instagram, Facebook. And not only are we putting videos out with the hopes that people are going to see them, we spend a substantial amount of money to make sure people see them. And that's what these social media platforms, I think, in my opinion, you can put out all the videos you want. If you're not giving them a little scratch, sometimes they're not putting your videos out there for people to see. So I found that now that we spend money with Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, we spend money with TikTok, we spend money with Twitter and X, we spend money on all these social media platforms, and I think it helps us with some of our organic reach too, because I can't 100% say that, but I have seen it in our own case. So I think once you're spending money with these platforms, whatever you can afford, if you're a small business and you're putting out a post and you could afford $15 to make sure that another 150, 200, 300, maybe 1,000 people are going to see it, I think it's worth it, because once you start spending money with these social media platforms, they, I believe, start pushing your content further to the top. Because
Open the gates a little bit more.
Because now you're a paying client. So we spend quite a bit of money with the social media platforms, along with Google as well, getting search words and keywords for when people search Shaq, or they search country music, or certain country artists for our country brand, or for our podcast. When I interview somebody like Kevin Costner, we will market to Kevin Costner fans. Try to go right after your demographic. And these social media platforms, they have great algorithms to where if you tell them you're looking for someone that is in the business for a shower door, or they've been looking at a remodel, you can find those people. It's unfortunate that they know so much about us these days, but from a
Can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, but from a marketing perspective, you can really hit your audience square in the nose, because I can find people that like hip-hop music, because that's what we do on Shaq Fu Radio. I can find people that like Shaq. I market in the markets where Shaq has a high awareness, like Orlando, like Los Angeles, like Miami, towns where he has a big following from his days of playing basketball. So we take all those things to account when we do our marketing. Age demographics. What's the age demographic of the people that are into my product? Well, let's only market to them. Don't waste your money marketing to somebody who's 80 years old that's not going to listen to my product. So we really try to scope our marketing down to our core audience, and we've come up with a formula to where now, when we're spending $1, we're making $1.50. And then if you spend enough dollars, the margins start growing, and you have a successful business.
So you've seen the social media has been a big tool for you guys to help grow the business.
For sure.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode. And don't forget to subscribe and smash that alert button for future episodes.